like it exploded the prison of silence for so many people, so many, largely women, but also not women, so many gay people. Millions saw that film. That was the first funda. Is
Yes.
can I change, can I do something with art, my art. But I did feel a tremendous sense of waste in my soul, that I had given my whole life, almost 2 years of it. I never do that. Hi.
Hi, Mira. How are you?
You want the entire life story? I couldn't. I was shocked by the immense. I usually don't do interviews, Shalini, until I have a new film to talk about, because you know what publicity is like. I was thrown by how quickly. I mean, this is a lot you're asking for, really.
I'll try and make it as painless as possible. Thank you so much for taking the time off to talk to us. And the inspiration behind talking to you at a time when there's no movies, releasing immediately, is
Yeah,
that when we are talking to the women in the film industry, the
I
Times of
understand.
India, and what is coming across is that they still see themselves as being on the other side, and the doors are not open, the ceilings are not being cracked for them, and there's a deep frustration. Like, the female actors are doing whatever they have to, but in terms of production, in terms of direction, women are
Yeah.
still not being given an opportunity. And the few directors, female directors I speak to, your name comes up so frequently. You're clearly the poster girl for the women hoping to get into direction and production in India. So I just thought it'd be a nice time to talk to you about it. And maybe,
Okay.
for
All
these
right.
women,
Let's
it'll be
jump
nice
in.
to hear your journey and understand how do they break through all the issues. I mean, do you see yourself as a woman director?
No, I mean, obviously, I am a woman, and obviously, I am a director. But I first and foremost really see myself as a filmmaker, because I believe that filmmaking is an enormous privilege, which encompasses, and cinema encompasses all the arts that could inspire, and certainly is an extraordinary mirror of what one wants to say about our world and our society. And for me, even though I really am a strong visualist, or that is very important to me, why I make films rather than radio plays, for instance, is because the visual medium allows me to and the extraordinary elasticity of cinema, where you can use any inspiration from a flower to a sky to a person to an emotion to to protest that is going on in the world. Any aspect it allows in to make a story of, using all the arts in a way. So that's why I'm a filmmaker. um,
But you don't feel that you have a feminine viewpoint when you
Of
are.
course, of course. No,
Yes.
you asked me if I think of myself as a woman director,
Yeah.
and I don't have to think of myself as a woman. I'm very, very proud and relieved to be a woman. No question about it, because we definitely bring a dimension and several dimensions to our work and to our lives and to our, in my case, to our cinema, that I certainly never take for granted or forget. I support women hugely. 90% of my crews from the beginning are people, I think, who believe and who can do the work, and they happen to be women because they are damn excellent at what they do.
Hmm.
So yes, I mean, I it's a flag of pride. It's an access, most importantly, it's an access to a world that I really don't think many men are welcome to. I started making films in 1979, and I always, and of course I had a scholarship at Harvard here in America. Harvard is an elite institution. It gives you what I call the foolish confidence that anything is possible, that what is the worst that can happen? You get a no, which is a different attitude from how we are raised in India. And
Yeah.
we are not asked to go out and stick your neck in and ask Denzel Washington to be in his second film in Mississippi Masala. You quick. But I was raised in a in a family. I was the youngest of three children. Both my brothers I'm very close to, but they're older than me. I was supposed to be, it's a myth that I was the spoilt only daughter kind of nonsense. Basically, the brothers taught me that I had to deserve an audience. When I spoke, they would just tease me down, kind of in a loving kind of brotherly fashion. But so they taught me most of all that I had to deserve my audience. That I'd have to tell a story in a way that they'd have to listen. Then the Harvard thing did come out of the blue because no one even knew I was applying, and I got this insane opportunity at the age of 18. Coming here, it was interesting because my roots are so strong at home in India that I could be who I absolutely was, and I'm always the same, but I could fly. I could see the whole world.
You really, really broke into the cinema world as somebody who had tremendous talent and a very unique insight. Youngsters or young girls who are striving to get there, what's the advice that you would give them? Because most of them funded their first film, and after that, it's, the doors are shut. They can't seem to find production companies willing to put money down for the next project. If they're under running to direct a film, invariably they get bumped off for a male director. So, what advice would you give as somebody who's seen it and
Well, my
achieved it?
first piece of advice, which is a very important one, is that your work has to reflect your excellence, and your work has to have cinematic rigor and a high standard of where you have literally not there's a lot of chalta hai, especially in our
Hmm.
world,
Yeah.
and there's a lot. Just get it done, yeah, quickly, and that never, really, so your work has to speak for itself. I often tell younger people, like, it's because of Salam Bombay that I was let into all kinds of meetings and encounters with great artists, because from Satyajit Ray to Billy Wilder, I remember, to Denzel Washington, to Nasiruddin Shah, to any, because they not only admired Salam Bombay, but they felt trust as actors. They felt trusted. They could trust this director, even though it was the first film. They knew when they saw the film that the children in the film were as equally in control, in command, as, let's say, Nana Patekar or Raghuveer Yadav. I mean, the whole world was holistically um, of the same level, of a world that worked. This is what, people in the artists in the business see. This is why you can dream of, this is why I had that meeting with Denzel, because he loved Salam Bombay. So what the advice I would give is that do your absolute best. Firstly, the work that you do has to be much more than a calling card, but it is your calling card, and you can't make apologies for it. When I started Shalini, which was 1979, there was very little what they called third world cinema in any screen.
Yeah.
Even in India, there hardly was. I saw my
Yeah.
first Satyajit Ray film in America. Even in India, there hardly was. But when they were movies here shown about our country, they were just pathetic technically. They were just like, you'd have to apologize. Oh, this is, we are from the third world. And I refused to do that. The first thing is to never lessen yourself
Yes, indeed.
in your own desire to make the best work, because people notice it, people feel it, and people, the audience may, but your fellow artists through your life will always say, my God, that's why I'm here. I had to meet you because Salam Bombay, had this, that, whatever it is. So number one, never to just let it slide,
Yeah.
to create a benchmark of quality and emotion, and also command over the medium, that is noticeable.
Mira, marketing is also such an important part. I mean, once the movie
Yeah.
is over, that's also a skill in itself. And clearly, you're really good at that too, because from your second film onwards, all the top production companies and actors were, I mean, they knew
Well,
you were somebody who would carry the film beyond the finish of it.
Oh
So,
yeah, I mean promotion and publicity, sadly, because it's such
yeah,
a. I used to call it the pillage tour because it's really like sab le lo apne. It's like you have to do the work. It's as
yeah.
much work as I mean Salam Bombay. I had 9 months of publicity all over the world. It was the first Indian film to be bought by every country in the world, and I had kids who couldn't travel. I had a very shy Anita Kanwar. I had I had to do it myself, the promotion, and it was exhausting, but it also taught me a lot. But yeah, you have to play the entire game, especially if you're. I don't want to say it to myself, but especially if you're a pioneer, especially if you're the first one to do that, then there is no other way than to
Mhm.
do it yourself. And now I make it a very part of my life, I must say, to support directors I admire, to help their work be seen and heard about. I did a lot of promotion and publicity for Shaunak Sen's All That Breathes.
Oh, that means yes.
I same with Payal Kapadia and All We Imagine. I mean,
Yes.
wherever I can, really help the light go to those who have struck a brave way through this mire of our film industry. I'm there because I know how hard it is to even get there, but also that one needs all the help one can get to shine the spotlight on people who are like us. Because let's face it, in this part of the world, we are not the mainstream, and we have to get the mainstream's eyes on our films and our quality. So I take that as a personal thing I'd like to do, to I'm very, very, I embrace what I admire big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you encounter any issues being a woman, in the sense, were there some films that didn't come to you, or there were some projects that didn't come to you because you were women? Were there some actors who said they did not want to be directed by women? Or alternatively, were there some who came and said, "You're a woman, so I want to be directed by you"?
In my life and career, I've basically mostly made films that I have to make, that I must make myself, that I, with my friend, whatever, create and push right on through, from say Salam Bombay to Monsoon Wedding to Namesake to Mississippi Masala. These are things that I've originated and drummed up right till the end. But there are other films that I have said yes to as a director that I want to make for different reasons, and one of them is Shantaram, which I committed to Johnny Depp as the star of the film and the producer of the film, as well as and many others. But I also, I have a kind of thing of when it's India on stage, on screen, I want to be making sure that it is represented in all our beauty, our complexity, and our authenticity, more than anything, So Shantaram was one such endeavor where it was
Mhm.
a colossal book, and it kind of caught the generation of the time, etc. And that's why I said, that's why I wanted to make it, when they came to me. That's why I said yes to it. But now that was my first experience. That's what, about 17 years ago, where firstly, I just rolled up my sleeves and worked with Eric Roth, the great writer, who had never left, let's face it, Malibu, and he didn't want to leave. Malibu, is the
Yes.
beach community in
Yes.
LA. He never wanted to. He was in Malibu. And so the idea of a slum in Bombay is like really far from him. And so I worked with him for almost a year and a half, really reworking, rewriting, really making him invent, making him see what it's like, to be in our part of the
Hmm.
world, to the best of my ability. Of course, I encountered a lot of. Uh, so anyway, that was my first very in-depth, immersive experience in the total full-on boys' club of Hollywood.
Okay.
Between the writers and Graham King, the producer, and Johnny Depp and his entourage, and all the minions, all men. The film is always bigger than all of us, so I didn't let the beige, as I used to call it, the beige quality, the fact that no one had any color except me. affect me as I plowed on to
Hmm.
bringing them to India, showing them that they didn't need that what we could do everything. But still, they would talk about, oh, let's build the slum in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, in New Mexico, because it's too far for Johnny to go to Bombay, all kinds of stuff. But anyway, I plowed on, but it was definitely my only experience of like almost opting to be in a boys' club. I mean, I said yes to the film, and then for 2 years, I was in this completely, you know, um, not just men, but also white men in suits,
Hmm.
and white men who had never been outside, who had never been sort of past Europe. You know, it,
Yeah.
it was a spectacularly unworldly team, to be honest, and except for Johnny, who is much more
Open.
open to the world.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
finally told him that I took him to a suite in the Taj, Bombay, where he would live, where George Harrison had taken lessons from Ravi Shankar in that suite for some
Hmm.
6 months and taught Harrison the guitar. So this
Hmm.
was like mind blowing to Johnny, and that what sold him to the idea that he could work in, he
Hmm.
maybe could work in India, because the entourage was even terrified to take him, beyond London.
So,
Yeah,
so
that's
what
why.
I'm curious to know is that the only time where you felt challenged as a woman handling these kind of different.
Yeah. I didn't even feel challenged, to be honest, because I knew exactly what I was doing, and I was
Mm.
really a global kind of film based in India, where you would really be in the reality zone. Really, I mean, we would not be inventing in India, sitting in Albuquerque, in New Mexico.
Yeah.
We were really we would be in it. But I did feel a tremendous sense of waste in my soul, that I had given my whole life, almost 2 years of
Mm.
it. I never do that. I really, every film I've started to make, I have made. I've never abandoned something in the middle. I've never.
Okay.
I always finish things. And I always do things that I really believe in. But I was, anyway, so that I felt a real sense of waste that I had kind of thrown away almost 2 years of my
Is
effort,
into that.
you know,
But
for
Mira,
this.
filmmaking is still a boys' club. I mean, if you look at
Yeah.
the number of women directors out there, it's
Yeah.
still a challenge. I mean,
Yeah.
in every other field, women have made strides, but this is the only one where there seems to be just no very, very marginal improvement. Have you been able to analyze as to why that happens?
I feel that sense of struggle so much myself, post COVID, because our whole systems of what the film industry was has changed and almost collapsed and reborn. It's and that is has been really hard for me as well, because we are doing what we are doing, but there are no avenues for the $15 million, for the serious sort of
For the
smaller,
independent
yeah,
voices,
smaller
yeah.
art, and not even
Yeah.
independent, it could be studio, but everybody is finding their own feet. Either it's
Mm.
blockbusters and only tentpole kind of big cinema, and that too
Mm.
about less than 10 of them a year.
Mm.
There's certainly, or it's the series on OTTs,
Yeah.
but there's certainly no very little middle ground. You still see it in European cinema. You
Cinema,
still
yeah.
see it sometimes in our Indian cinema, but it's a very difficult universe. And believe me, I'm tasting the same sense of struggle
Mm.
for it, because you got to keep going. I don't give up. But I mean, there is no clear analysis as to why we don't you know go forward. One of the points for sure is that until those who give us money look like us,
Mm.
we're not going to be that clearly embraced or understood. uh, that's really the case in this part of the world. um,
Mm.
it's not so much the case in India, I think, because a lot of women are running the studios, are running
Mhm.
Netflix,
Mhm.
and are running Amazon, and are
Yeah.
running those real studios. All of them, in fact, many of them. And still, and it still is not like it's a championing of women, because a lot of women who run these things have to first appear as strong as their male counterparts, perhaps, or
Yeah.
whatever. And the other thing, really, Shalini, is money, in the sense
Mm.
that we all, not we, the film has to prove that it's
Mm.
either making money or eyeballs, as they call it in India, in spades, or um, prestige. And prestige doesn't go a long way. I
Mm.
have spades of prestige to offer anyone, but it's not always my clear ticket to making a film. Now, this movie I'm making now is on Amrita Sher-Gil,
Yes.
and she taught me how to see. She's one of the most extraordinary artists in this world,
Yes.
unsung, but yet outside India, India hardly knows her, but outside India, she's very unknown because she was a
Mm.
national treasure on her death at 19, in 28, when she was 28 years old. She left these
Mm.
incredible
Yes.
masterpieces that
Yeah.
formed our gallery of modern art, but they are not allowed to leave the country because she's a national treasure. So
Mm.
the rest of the world does not know her. They will know her very soon, because Frida Kahlo was not known until
Yeah.
the film on her came out close to 15 years ago, and now she's an icon of the world, because they've
Yes.
discovered her art. And the same thing, inshallah, will happen with Amrita Sher-Gil,
Going on.
and not just keep on going to make 2+2 band-aid cinema, but to make your own voice heard, and in the way that you
Yeah.
need it. But so I don't have the an easy answer, but I don't have an easy
Okay.
answer, but
So,
it's such an exercise in indomitability and not giving up. But for me, what's most important is the quality and vocabulary and style of cinema that you are wanting to make, that
mm,
you retain that
that.
distinctiveness for yourself. If you want to become an on the A list on of white people's movies, uh, you would not be talking to me. I would be just one of them, over there. But because I think I always stuck to my own, what I can do, and that what you can't do, my distinctiveness. Um, and I also, it was a lonely process to be that kind of pioneer, to be honest, because
Mm.
I didn't know when I made Mississippi who
Yeah.
would see this film, like, because it's interracial, it's a mixed race thing. And then when I looked at the crowds, I have to keep an eye on the time. It was all hybrid, mixed couples. It was the first of its kind in 1991, of people's whose stories had never been seen before. They came out to look at this film, like, because no one had bothered to think of interracial love or to interracial politics at that time. And so then slowly, as you make your own way, I found, which I never thought about before, I found that I had a kind of special audience who was waiting for me. Was kind of empowering.
I'd like to talk about one of my favorite films, which is also a film you made, which is Monsoon Wedding. They are those films, those rare films that come and open people's eyes. And I think Wedding did it because it called out the sexual predators that are there in many families. And this
Yeah,
came much before the Me Too movement out
much
there. So,
before.
what were the conversations you had with women post that film coming out?
You know, I never expected that Monsoon Wedding would be as cathartic a reception to the film as it had. And you know, I made what I used to call an intimate family flick. But a truthful one, but also one that tells you, that reveals the secrets of families and any families, but one that is also encased in the masti, in the joie de vivre, in the largesse of the Punjabi
Mm.
heart. So I think that's also what is distinctive. I don't, you should say this, not me, of my films, is that it's not messagistic. They are not homework.
Mm.
Absolutely not. I want to not preach to the converted. I don't want to preach. I want to entertain you. I want to bring you into a world where you feel like you can see yourself and then surprise you. You know, that's what also our families are.
Yeah.
We are imbued with that kind of love and intimacy, but there are secrets that are held, and our
You drew from your own experience. I remember once you
my
talked about being
experience, and
sexually
also Sabrina is
assaulted.
the writer, Sabrina Dhawan,
Mm.
wonderful writer from Delhi. Also, she was my student here at Columbia University. I was teaching at the time, and she also had, and it was also her big time her experience too. But yes, both our experiences, and both our families, Punjabi families of Delhi, we really know the scene. Anyway, so but what I didn't expect. Was that it would become. I remember a friend of mine saw the rough cut of the film here and said, "My God, Mira, this is going to be frighteningly popular." And I laughed and I said, "I hope you're right." But what I did not expect was the catharsis, was the like it exploded the prison of silence for so many people, so many, largely women, but also not women, so many gay people, like just said, "Oh my God, at first time I'm seeing myself on screen, and I'm seeing my like I'm seeing what I have faced all my life, even with the Varun character, but the catharsis of abuse that was shattered really from that film. And it was also a very popular film, so it millions saw that film. So that dialogue was very powerful. And also, it's the reason I make movies is to change the world. I really, it sounds idealistic, but that was the first funda. Is
Yes.
can I change, can I do something with art, my art, and but that it was a
So,
great, the Monsoon
Mira,
wedding.
while you have this wonderful ability to change people's opinions, you also are opening up India to the world. I mean, before
Yeah,
you, it was Raj Kapoor and it was Satyajit Ray, and Satyajit Ray was just too. It was very artsy. Raj Kapoor, of
local.
course, very, very popular. But after that, I can't think of any other filmmaker which has opened up India so much to the global audience as you have. Do you agree with that?
I do, because when I started even promoting Salam Bombay, it was truly the first Indian film to be in theaters from Sweden to Hong Kong to Brazil. And then the kind of repercussions I have tasted all my life since my work is exactly this, that families have stopped me and said thank you for showing what my wedding could be like, or even with Kama Sutra, man. I can't tell
Mhm.
you, like doctors, gynecologists, people, sexologists, all kinds of people have used that film for their own purposes with their clients. I've heard, I mean, how the engagement of the senses, which is what we were talking about in Kama Sutra, has also helped a whole dimension of people, specimens of humanity. We are really, like, it's being so truthfully local to our souls in India. We are actually, these movies have made us universally understood.
Yeah, I've
You
noticed
know?
you've been very particular about not getting slotted into any genre. Like most famous directors have a type of
Yeah.
films that they do. You don't have any type. You are
Yeah. Yeah.
trying everything, like whatever appeals to you.
Yeah, it's mostly, for me, it's about the politics, not the politics as we understand politics, but I believe that everything one does has a point of view. And whatever I do has to reflect my point of view. And my point of view is not the white point of view. My point of view comes from another place of hybridity, and of being, of understanding the strength of the other world, our world, which is not necessarily a Western world, although I'm familiar with the world very deeply, but it is, but I love that my world, I love that I come from a much more expansive worldview, and it's not a worldview that always makes, that the movies reflect. Making films is also an enormous sacrifice from one's personal life. It's a beautiful sacrifice, but whatever I do, it has to be worth that sacrifice. And now now the struggle is so intense, because of the film industry ka halat,
Mhm.
that I was telling my husband, our son, we have one child, he's 33 years old, and his name is Zohran Mamdani, and he's running for mayor of New York City, and he's
Wow.
really capturing the
Mm.
zeitgeist of you know, to to make this city affordable for the working class, for the people who have built the city, you know. And whenever I see and hear him and see his following increase, and people people always, you know, I feel to Mahmood, I tell my husband, I say, you know, jo bhi kiya hai na, bacha ko you know, we've raised the good.
Yes.
So I'm saying, I'm saying one that for me, that tightrope of what you choose to put your mind, whole world in, because it's a whole world when you make a movie, has to be worth, you know, the family, the absence from family. So that tightrope I've tried to walk, you know, without losing the power and love on my family, and especially this young man that we've raised. So then I don't know why I'm telling you this, but basically it's that. So I don't fritter my life on movies I know I can make, but I don't have to make. Other people should make. That is my biggest criteria. If I can think of people who can make this film, they should make this film. I I'll only make the films that I have to make, and that only I can make.
Do you feel that the movie business is also faltering because they are not being able to keep up to the aspirations of women who have moved eons away from the way they were last century? They've really gone ahead, they've evolved, but the films are still being made only by the men. So do you feel that's one of the reasons why the movie business is not connecting? It's that's 50% of the population you're talking about.
Let's say this, I really feel the big difference when a film is directed by a woman, like All We Imagine as a case in point, or you know, or Zoya's work. I just want to also end on this last question of the women I admire. Anyway, when you see the tenderness and the complexity and the drama and the insight of this world that we see sometimes in female directed movies, um, it's astonishingly different, you know, because the point of view is different,
Yes.
and I basically they have to, you know, and they reach, anyway. It's a tightrope also of a different kind, because unless we prove that we can make big bucks, which we've proved each time. I mean, look at Barbie as a, I mean, it's
Yes.
an outrageous example, but you know, look at Lapata Ladies, look at, you know,
Wonder Woman.
you know, we've proved that so many times.
Yes.
Monsoon Wedding, I mean, you know,
Oh,
was made
yes.
for 1 million, it made 30, you know. It's makes, unless we can really prove to the industry that we have made money, and we have proved that um, time and again. Money is what people look at, but it's still, but you know, there's so much more to it, Shalini, in terms of the road that you have to travel to make sure you're sticking to what you intended to do and not get it watered down by the money as it goes. That's the halat of our cinema, because the thing is that it costs so much, you know, so that you have to have, that's why I like to work in low budgets, because the lower the budget, the greater the freedom, you know.
Yeah.
I don't have to answer that. And for me, I know now, not now, for a while, that my best work is when they don't tamper with it, you know.
Yeah.
And also, I'm very open. I listen, but I always say I'm the best collaborator so long as I have the last word.
Which are the women filmmakers you admire?
Okay, the women filmmakers I admire are Jane Campion, are Lynn Ramsey, are Zoya, my darling Zoya Akhtar, are Justine Triet, the woman who made Anatomy of a Fall, and Claire Denis, the great French director. Amongst, there's others, but I thought I would give you five.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you, darling.
Lovely
Send it
talking.
to
I
me,
wish
and
we could have.
we
I
can
have
make it
still have
better.
so many questions which are not answered, but it's okay. For
But
now, I'll go
send
with
it to
this.
me, and we'll make it better. I
Okay.
promise.
Okay, great.
Okay.
I'll email
All
them
right,
to
lovely.
you.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Okay. Bye bye. See you.
Bye.